Across Europe, a chill wind blows. The continent watches as Russia wages war on Ukraine. It is a stark reminder of Europe's own vulnerability. The question haunts everyone: will Russia stop at Ukraine? French President Macron, among others, voices a grave concern. He labels Russia a direct threat to Europe. The European Council on Foreign Relations echoes this warning. They caution against a peace on Russia's terms, fearing it would only embolden further aggression. The situation is dire, the threat is real, and Europe must prepare. The spectre of conflict hangs heavy in the air. European leaders are now forced to confront an unsettling reality. Russia, once a partner in dialogue, is now a potential adversary. This shift has shaken the continent to its core. The situation in Ukraine serves as a harsh wake-up call. It exposes the fragility of peace and the urgent need for a strong and unified European response. The future of Europe hinges on decisive action. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now. For decades, Europe has relied on the United States as its primary security guarantor. But the landscape is shifting. The Trump administration's wavering stance on Ukraine raised red flags. A softened tone on Zelensky, threats of troop withdrawals from Europe, and direct talks with Putin shook the transatlantic relationship. Adding to the uncertainty, the Biden administration, while more supportive of Ukraine, has also emphasized the need for Europe to shoulder more responsibility for its own defense. This shift in American foreign policy has left Europe grappling with a stark reality. It can no longer assume automatic US support in times of crisis. This realization has been a wake-up call for Europe. It has exposed the continent's strategic vulnerability and the need for greater self-reliance in defense matters. The European Council on Foreign Relations, a leading think tank, has been vocal in its assessment. It argues that the US is stepping back from its leading role in Europe, leaving a dangerous vacuum. This vacuum, if left unfilled, could have dire consequences. It could embolden Russia and make Europe more susceptible to aggression. The message is clear. Europe must step up and take charge of its own destiny. Faced with this new reality, Europe is taking action. There is a growing recognition that a strong and independent European defense is no longer optional. It is essential. This realization is driving a wave of rearmament and defense initiatives across the continent. The European Commission, the EU's executive branch, has proposed an ambitious €800 billion rearmament plan. This unprecedented investment aims to bolster European defense capabilities and reduce reliance on the US. The European Council on Foreign Relations recommends that European nations should aim to spend at least 3% of their GDP on defense, a significant increase for many. Individual countries are also stepping up. The UK's Labour Party leader Keir Starmer has pledged to increase military spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027. Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala has called for at least 3% spending, highlighting the growing sense of urgency. This shift towards increased defence spending reflects a fundamental change in Europe's strategic thinking. The continent is moving away from its post-Cold War complacency and embracing a more assertive and self-reliant defense posture. The path ahead is clear. Europe must continue to bolster its defense capabilities. It must invest in modern military equipment, strengthen its intelligence-sharing networks, and develop a more cohesive and coordinated defense strategy. But military strength alone is not enough. Europe must also leverage its economic and diplomatic clout to deter Russian aggression. This includes maintaining tough sanctions on Russia, providing unwavering support to Ukraine, and actively engaging in diplomatic efforts to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The EU has already committed €30 billion in aid to Ukraine this year and is considering borrowing up to €150 billion for rearmament. These financial commitments demonstrate Europe's resolve to stand by Ukraine and counter Russian aggression. The road ahead will be challenging. It will require difficult decisions, increased defense spending, and unwavering political will. However, the stakes are too high for Europe to falter. The future of the continent and the security of its people depends on a strong, united, and independent European defense.